Welcome back, Flare community. I hope you're all well and having an incredible day as always. It is almost the weekend, it's Friday, and we've got a bit of a treat today because we're going to be listening in to a very interesting stream featuring Hugo, the Firelight team, and also SparkDex too. So if you are watching this at a later date, not live, you may want to jump forward 10 minutes because that's when the conversation starts. Unless you want to get a bit of a precursor of what Firelight is, because that's what we're going to be doing for the next 10 minutes in preparation for this stream. So starting here, this is what we're going to be listening to today. We've got this post from the Flare official account from FXRP, which is the F asset where you can bridge XRP to the Flare network and get FXRP to staked XRP. And this is the whole premise behind the Firelight protocol. You basically deposit your FXRP into a vault and receive staked XRP. Very similar to how you do this with Flare. You deposit it into a vault and get staked Flare, and it allows you to have this liquid staked token, what you can use in other DeFi applications. The title is Firelight, What is Next for XRP? We're going to be listening into Hugo himself, Jesus Rodriguez, who is the founder of Firelight, and also Steve from SparkDex. If we go here, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. They say that this is the topic of conversation. They're talking about an in-depth look at the Firelight protocol, exploring its launch, which is due very soon. I'll talk about that in just a moment. The impact that it's going to have for the Flare community and for XRP holders, and the vision for the future of decentralized finance. That's starting in at 3 p.m. my time, which is going to be in about 8 minutes time. This is how it basically works. You've got the XRP ledger here. You bridge that over to the Flare network, as many of you should be familiar with, as FXRP. And then with that FXRP, you can deposit it into a Firelight vault, and then you get staked XRP in return, which again, you can use in various decentralized finance applications. So that's how it works. If we go on to this post here, phase 1 is coming soon, everyone's favorite word, with a secure, trust minimized way to earn on your XRP. Many of you may know this, XRP is not a proof of stake network. It has no yield bearing opportunities natively other than providing liquidity on the XRPL itself. But with the Flare network's potential, you unlock a lot more opportunities where you can earn yield with XRP, and that is through staking XRP, providing liquidity on the Flare network, and enjoying some of the reward Flare incentives. And just as a heads up here, this first vault is going to enjoy zero slashing risk as an early adopter. So what does that mean? It means that the risks are very minimized. Whenever you're interacting with any application, there's a risk that you go to a wrong site. There's a risk that there is a vulnerability in the smart contract, but that's basically very, very low because a lot of these protocols go through audits and are thoroughly checked, as we've seen with the F asset protocol, right? Here we go. So if we go here, we're going to be getting Firelight points when we stake our FXRP. Firelight points accrue based on 3 key factors: the amount of STXRP or staked XRP that you hold, how long you hold it for, and point boosts. And you may be wondering what this is. It's for the early adopters. Whitelisted users get a foundational 1.1 boost, points boost. And I believe this opportunity has passed, but I did talk about it some months ago when this whitelist or the wait list was available, but it did fill out pretty fast. We've got 4 minutes left. 6 minutes to go. Right, this is the timeline, and this is very interesting. We've seen all of these things play out from August up until November, where we are right now. They've got the Firelight audit, the first one, pretty much audits here. We've got the launch of the F asset system, the bug bounty program, and then Firelight phase 1, which is starting in November. And that's the month that we're in right now. So it's coming pretty soon, right? Okay. This is something that I caught from a Knowing Faith from Firelight Discord this morning. Tune into today's space. In my case, maybe tonight for you, we're dropping alpha. Don't miss it. So is there a launch date on the horizon in this space? I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I do have some ideas of when this might actually launch based on a couple of tweets that I'm going to talk about in just a second. If you're wondering what the interface looks like, what the website looks like, what the dApp looks like, this is what it will look like. This looks like the landing page here. You've got your vaults, you've got your positions, you've got the TVL, the amount of value that's locked within the vault, and the Firelight points that you've been accruing. And you can basically get information of all of your positions. You can see here there's a staked 50,000 XRP here, and that they're earning points right here. So yeah, maybe we'll hear a little bit more about what these points actually do. I do see the Odysseus. But yeah, everyone in the chat, please feel free to drop a like on the video, try and get more people in here. And we're going to do this how we normally do, where we listen in to the live stream, and I'm going to be hanging out in chat. I'm going to be taking notes and doing a quick recap at the end. Well, how long have we got? We've got another 4 minutes to go. So before I do look at the chat, I just want to bring your attention to this because I think it is a speculative launch date. Obviously, we hear soon quite a lot, but that's pretty vague. But there was this post that just came out just less than an hour ago, which I caught, and this is from Immunify. And you may recognize them from the audit competitions for the F asset protocol, right? So there's a new audit competition that has just gone live, and this is the Firelight audit competition. Dive into securing Firelight upgradable vault contracts, a vital piece of their infrastructure showcasing you can showcase your skill, find vulnerabilities, and earn rewards for strengthening the ecosystem. This is running from the 7th of September, which is today, up until the 17th. So there's 10 days that this competition is running. And that's why I potentially speculate that we could be seeing a launch date on the 17th after this audit competition has concluded, right? That's just my speculation. Don't get too crazy on that. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to actually be looking into this because I've been looking into these ERC 4626 vault contracts, which is basically an ERC standard, similar to NFTs, ERC20 or ERC20 tokens, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to have a little peek at this to see how it works. If you are interested, you can find a link over here on the Immunify channel or the page here. Okay, so I have to be frustrated with the launch or the rollout of Firelight? No, not at all. You know, it's impossible for Firelight to launch before F assets went live, and that went live pretty recently, I would say. It's been a long time in the making, and yeah, now that it's here, it looks like they're getting the ball rolling, but similar to how F assets launched, they was making sure it's as watertight as possible, and this is a very highly anticipated application. There's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines with their FXRP. I think there was if I recall correctly, I think there was a statistic about 70% of FXRP is being put to use, which means that there's 30% just sitting on the sidelines, which I imagine is waiting to be locked in this vault from Firelight. Right, we've got 1 minute on the clock, and yeah, we're just gonna hang tight for a second. This is what we're waiting for. Maybe they've started it already. We just have to, yeah, we'll just give it a minute because they normally do a couple of minutes waiting to get people up on the stage and, you know, getting all of the, getting everyone up here and doing the introductions, which we all know by now. You know, everyone knows who Hugo is if you're watching this, or at least I hope you do. So, wow, I think this is going to be quite a good one. Actually, we're just going to jump in now. It is due to start right now, so maybe this started it early. And yeah, let's listen in. If they have started speaking, I will drop the microphone down and we will just listen in. So yeah, let's see what they have to say. Okay, it does sound like we have the music playing the waiting music, so I will hang tight for a second. As I said, they're probably just getting the speakers up. You got Steve from Firelight as well, which I think is interesting. I think this is going to be talking about them, Firelight launching liquidity pools, and I imagine this is going to be across the board with staked XRP. So, you know, instead of the FXRP pools, or in addition to the FXRP pools, we're going to have staked XRP as well. So you're going to be able to double dip on the yield. You stake your XRP, you're earning a yield there from the vault, and then you can put that staked XRP to use. Right, let's, I think the music has stopped, so it has stopped. Oh, wow, sorry about that, guys. That's, oh, they're selecting the playlist. There we go, Hugo speaking, they got Jack, they've got Steve. I think we might be almost ready to go. David, no, not another delay. In order to have a delay, there needs to be a deadline, right? So yes, it is vague saying soon, but you can't say that something is delayed if a time has not been set, because a delay would mean that it's postponed. Okay, we've got Jesus here that is waiting to get up on the stage. Maybe that's what we're waiting for. We got GG. If I am using the Bifrost browser wallet or the Bifrost wallet and have minted FXRP, how do you connect to the Firelight with your mobile wallet? Well, Bifrost has an in-app browser. So if you go to the bottom of the screen, you'll see 4 little squares. And from there, you can basically select that option in the menu, and then you'll get a browser. You just punch in the website, and then go from there. You can connect your wallet directly in the app. I'm going to give this a quick refresh because I don't know if it's playing up, but it seems like everyone's muted. Let's just give it a quick refresh and see what happens. We still got starting music. Moon there, delays are great, keep stacking. That's an optimistic way to look at it, but, you know, from my perspective, I don't mind waiting. I'd rather wait for something to launch well. You only get one chance at a launch like this. It's extremely highly anticipated, not just from retail investors, but from institutions too. Ballistics GTA 6 was delayed indeed, but they did have a defined date where they was anticipating a launch, and they said it has been delayed, I believe November. That again is highly anticipated, and the team are taking, you know, extra time to refine things, to get it right and to get it perfect, to meet the expectations that people already have. And it's the same with Firelight, should I say. Right, looks like they're still trying to get everything ready. From my perspective, it looks good. Just waiting for Jesus to come up to the stage. On a side note, though, we did see a new announcement from Anosis, if you are interested. They're saying that, yes, the Anosis APY cloud is due to launch within days. Which is also very highly anticipated. It's been running on the Songbird network for a while, and yeah, I'm excited to put my APS and Helion to use. Anyways, the music has slowed down. Oh, are we close? No, maybe not. I can only apologize on their behalf for this delay. Looks like we're 5 minutes in, and yeah, just sitting tight here. Let's give it another refresh.
Well, GM, everybody,
There
and
we go.
welcome back
Perfect.
to another banger show with Firelight, unlocking XRP opportunities. And today we're talking about scaling XRP in the DeFi space. We've got Jesus with us here, the co-founder, CTO, CPO of Centaura HQ. And we've also got Hugo with us today, co-founder of Flare Networks. We've got Steve OX with us, founding member of MetaVault DAO. And we've got the main Centaura account here, the institutional DeFi layer. Look, it's been a crazy week and a half here in the space. And I think, yeah, we've got tons to talk about for this conversation today. So really excited to dive into this. Who should we get the mic over to first? Do we have anyone behind the Firelight account? Or Jesus, do you want to come in first? And then we'll keep throwing the mic around.
I guess I should go last. I mean, also Hugo and Jack, please.
Of course, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so Hugo, I'll throw it over to you, and then we'll keep throwing the mic around.
Hey, how you doing? Just got off a plane from New York, so tiny bit jet lagged, but all good.
Oh wow, yeah. I don't envy you, Hugo. That's not the easiest of flights, but thank you so much for hopping in here. How about a little intro from yourself, who you are for the panel today, and then I'll throw the mic over to Steve, who is founding member of MetaVault DAO and also co-founder of SparkDex AI, who's speaking on behalf of today.
Absolutely. So, yeah, my name is Hugo Philion. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Flare, and I suppose I've been heavily responsible in sort of building out the Flare network XRP DeFi offering.
Amazing stuff. And we've got Steve here as well. Steve, I'll throw the mic over to you next. We'd love to know a little bit about yourself and why you're speaking on this panel today.
Hello, nice to meet you all. Yeah, my name is Steve. I'm a co-founder of SparkDex. I think that's the relation why I'm here in the space with Flare. I think we will have a lot to talk today about XRP and FXRP, and I think the most anticipated launch of Firelight.
Absolutely. And then back over to Jesus then. Would love to hear your thoughts on this and how excited are you for the panel today?
I'm very much excited. Thank you for hosting. My name is Jesus Rodriguez. I'm the co-founder of and CTO CPO of Centaura. Previously, I co-founded Into the Block that went on to become the biggest institutional DeFi provider in the space, and then we merged with a company called Trident Digital to and raised 25 million to launch Centaura with this idea of providing sort of a universal institutional grade DeFi layer to DeFi, meaning sophisticated strategies, risk management with a lot of AI in it, security, robustness. Been working with Flare for a long time, been working with Ripple, collaborating with Ripple for a long time. Our team together with Ripple launched RLUSD on chain and provided, or clients provided, a significant portion of that TVL that you see today. At the beginning of the year or end of last year, Hugo approached us with this idea of providing a staking layer for XRP, considering the work that they were doing on F assets that I seen evolve over the years, and it coincided with some work that we were doing on DeFi insurance or cover. So that was a genesis of Firelight that has been incubated for the good part of this year in a close collaboration of Flare and Centaura, and is almost ready to see the light of day. So we're pretty excited about it.
Awesome stuff, guys. And look, apologies, X is a little bit funky this morning on Spaces, so there's a couple of technical hurdles we're just getting through, but hopefully this will be smooth sailing from here. And really appreciate the panel coming together. And yeah, look, we've just heard all of the sort of experience that we have in this room today, and we're really going to dive into scaling XRP in DeFi and touch a little bit more on the DeFi space. And thank you, Jesus, for that take. And also, yeah, look, it's a really interesting time in the space as well right now. I wonder, is is it worth touching on the market as a whole before we do dive into this conversation? Because I guess, look, this is going to impact the space more broadly, but of course the DeFi and XRP side as well. Jesus, what are your takes on the recent market conditions? Is this in any way impacted, your outlook in terms of how we're going to push forward, or any other sort of feedback or thoughts on the market overall for our listeners today?
Yeah, obviously it wasn't a good week with the balancer exploit, the Moonwell issues, and stream finance and other peripheral things. We were obviously as a platform that hosts DeFi strategies or risk models, were very active on the situation. We didn't have any exposure to any of this, but regardless, we have collaborated with many of those teams before, and we had some positions in Moonwell that we exit safely. I think what it highlights a few things. If something like this happens to Balancer, can happen to anybody, because Balancer is an exceptional team, very diligent, and have been in the space forever. So I think they're widely respected in that, regardless of what you think of the current state of the protocol, they have been innovating since the beginning. So it's pretty sad to see this level that this happens to them. At the same time, it's a fairly sophisticated exploit in terms of manipulating data accounting, rounding efforts to scale. So it highlights still some of the intrinsic fragility of the space. Then obviously there were other things with this Oracle manipulation and the stream finance incident that it shows also that tokenized hedge funds and things like that are not exactly the safest approach to be in, unless you're dealing with very seasoned risk managers that have been battle tested in the space. Do I think there is more risk in the ecosystem? Probably. There is a theory that a lot of this might be side effects from what happened in October 10th, right? All the rumors of market makers blowing up and all that. I don't think we have seen the end of that story yet. But I don't think there is anything systematically wrong with the space right now. This stuff happens, and certainly doesn't affect our roadmap or plans with Firelight. Within DeFi is one of the strongest narratives. There are three strong narratives on this cycle: stable coins, prediction markets, and DeFi, without a doubt. So I think DeFi is experiencing one of the strongest momentum in the space, and that's not going to change because of what happened this week.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I've heard those rumors countless times now around, the liquidation events and leverage side. I think this is something that I guess we need to be a little bit more familiar with now that the space is growing. And, you see institutional capital come in, you see different ways of getting access to these assets, not just retail. And with that, sometimes it does come with higher risk. And I do think as these news items do continue to evolve and come to light, we will definitely see some, at least some level of accountability falling into, October 10th and what happened around that market impact. Look, guys, great start to the show. I really want to dive into this one now, and we are here talking about Firelight, about how XRP is impacted by all of this, and would love to dive into the conversation with Hugo, Steve, and Jesus here. Guys, to start us off, I guess, where do we start? DeFi has grown into a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem, yet it remains largely uninsured. Institutional capital market makers and on-chain participants face a fundamental barrier: the absence of scalable, credible risk protection. What does that mean to you guys? What does that mean to Firelight? And also, what does that mean to DeFi? And I guess, Jesus, do you want to come in first here, and then we'll get the mic over to Steve and Hugo to give their 5 cents in on this one?
Correct. Look, I mean, since we started our institutional DeFi platform, that was a focus, right? We were created as an institutional first platform. What that truly, even though we're powering a lot of the top retail vaults in the market, but mostly as a B2C, B2B2C model, what that meant is when you're serving institutions, you have to have a level of robustness in terms of risk management, in terms of intelligence, the sophistication of the strategies. That is probably what beyond what you see on your typical, let's say, bulk curation effort and things like that. Even though we partner with a ton of the bulk curators, I believe that in this cycle, where institutional DeFi is a core narrative, we're seeing more and more institutions coming into the space. Without it, we're seeing companies going public with a DeFi story. And in parallel to that, and credit to Hugo that he saw this coming before any of us, XRP is enjoying a tremendous momentum. Right, like they post the SEC ruling and the change in administration in the US and a bunch of other things. It felt like the company that Ripple got back a lot of their innovation sea legs, and they have been super acquisitive. They have been shipping product. They have been growing like crazy. And I think, but they always have this constraint that they never experienced a yield in their history, right? XRP holders. So I think unlocking a financial ecosystem for XRP that can scale. I mean, you're talking about top 5 assets, so that can scale to that size is part of the effort of what Hugo is doing with F assets and FXRP plus Project Firelight. So, and I think to his credit, he saw that coming before people were talking about it.
Yeah, Hugo, would love to hear your thoughts on this. How did you see all that come in, and how important is it now to, see the space and see the offerings that we're here to talk about today?
Oh, I think it's been basically my core belief for a long time that there needs to be a way to put underutilized assets to work. And XRP is fundamentally a very interesting asset with, a main entity within the ecosystem that is going from strength to strength. For whom I am fundamentally aware that they are more. They're building out businesses in multiple different areas, but XRP is a core interest of theirs, and you can very easily say, well, okay, if I've built out this business, then why wouldn't I put it on chain? And so, I think that's a core place that XRP is going to continue to do really well and rise up in the rankings against other tokens. So I think they've got a very interesting and good future. But I've always thought, well, okay, but if I'm holding XRP, whether as a retail holder or as an institution, there's really very little financial engineering I can do with it. I can't. I can't really borrow against it without going to a centralized counterparty. I can't use it as liquidity in a DEX to pick up that yield. I can't borrow other tokens with it that I can put to work to get further yield. And there's effectively a limited number of things to do with XRP. So that's always been my thesis that we would start with XRP and really work hard on building an XRP DeFi ecosystem, and that's what we're doing with Flare. I just want to say one of the reasons I've partnered with Jesus and Centaura on the product we're discussing today, which is Firelight, which I see as a core plank of the XRP DeFi ecosystem on Flare, is that Centaura have had an extremely good track record. To my knowledge, the vast majority of their clients are businesses. Some of the things we saw this week with regards to some of the vault curators, they're managing other people's money, but they're less so managing the money of businesses. They're using their reputation to get allocations from other people in the industry who may or may not be that financially savvy. And one of the things I really liked about Centaura is they built a very, very strong risk management platform. and the credibility of their customers demonstrates that there's been an awful lot of due diligence into what Centaura does, how their risk models work, and how they effectively manage the capital. And so I couldn't think of a better entity to build Firelight.
Look, great context there from Hugo, and very much appreciate you hopping onto this, Hugo. Look, Steve, I will have to throw this one over to you as well. We're talking a lot already in terms of scale, in terms of risk protection, and also, the impact that XRP can have along with you guys and the rest of the founders we have on stage. Would love to hear your thoughts about, how this space does evolve and what's required to continue to push it forward.
Yes, I started very early with DeFi. It was, I think, 2017 with Etherland, now Aave. So, and then it evolves in 2020, the DeFi rush, the big hype around Pancake and Pancake Swap. Since then, I'm very deeply involved in DeFi, and I can say that now slowly the large LPs, liquidity providers coming and institutions coming and having interest to supply liquidity and let their money work. Even market makers want to actively work in the space. But the issue is generally also, like, Centauro wants to fix is the insurance. We see, the balancer exploit or the banker exploit some years ago. The space is still not 100% secure, and how you can satisfy a institution provider with billions of money throwing into DeFi when you cannot insure them. Secondly, XRP needs a utility. Actually, the utility, I think it's the gas token, and then you can invest and speculate on the price increasement of XRP. But as Hugo mentioned, the financial tools we have in DeFi was missing until FXRP launched, like borrowing against your asset, or even using as collateral for trading or providing liquidity to earn yields and fees on market making participations. I think it's very involving generally in DeFi, and I hope, like Jesus say, we will have much more traction, and this narrative, this cycle will be much harder, have a much harder impact to all of us. So positive impact.
Absolutely. And I think now we should definitely dive into the insurance side of all of this, and the products and the offerings that, we're looking to build out here. So for our listeners, I hope you're enjoying this one. Got a real deep dive here with the builders up on stage, and, just trying to give you that context in a content form that you might enjoy or that you can access, just audio with a bunch of builders here, experts on stage, building in exactly this industry. Look, I guess back over to Jesus here to start with. DeFi insurance has emerged as a response to a real problem, like billions locked in small contracts with no mechanisms to cover losses during exploits, hacks, or protocol failures. Could you describe more about the impetus behind the idea of DeFi insurance?
Yeah, so let's look at it from two perspectives. One is from a just DeFi market perspective. There hasn't been a market since the 1700s, financial market, that hasn't had an insurance component, right? Since the Lloyd's of London insuring maritime trips and ships. So DeFi is probably going to hit some scaling roadblocks at some point, right? It amazingly has gotten to this point without insurance. There have been attempts to solve this in the before, and they have all, let's say, not achieved mission critical success for different reasons. We can go into that. But then the second part is, as an institutional DeFi provider, we do confront this problem regularly. Like, we have for 1,000 machine learning risk models in production but we can do all the risk management monitoring that you can. Insurance is the ultimate form of risk management, because conceptually insurance changes something that is really hard to understand, like smart contract risk, economic risk in DeFi, Oracle risk, bridge risk, and all that to something that is very quantifiable, like collateral risk. So we have been working on this for a long time. We have been obsessed with the problem. Thankfully, some people on the top protocols in DeFi are also very obsessed with this problem. So we started collaborating on this at the end of last year. It takes a company that is doing DeFi at a scale with institutions to think about this problem, because if you're not dealing with institutions, most people are not really going to care, right, about this problem. But it's a massive institutional unlock. So we started working on that problem, but there was always the challenge of how do you get to billions in a scale to ensure, Aave, Lido, like these protocols that have grown past the scale of any insurance provider in DeFi. And then when we started thinking about Firelight, we said, well, that's the answer, right? Like there is all this massive market cap, low cost assets sitting there, not being productive. What if you can use it to protect, to buy covers, to model covers on some of the top DeFi assets in the market, essentially getting the exposure to the risk of the protocol, but without deploying into the protocol. So the risk of insuring Aave is linearly correlated with the risk of deploying capital in Aave. If if XRP holders could deploy capital in Aave, they will all do it for a decent yield, except they can't, right, at a scale. So this is this solution combines two problems, combines Hugo's idea of bringing XRP yield at a scale with our work on protecting DeFi protocols and DeFi assets.
No, look, incredible use case here and incredible offering, and you know it makes complete sense. I think to continue to build out in these sort of environments to continue to help scale XRP. And look, can you tell me a little bit more of what like sort of events will coverage be provided for specifically, and what are some of the greatest threats to protocols like XRP?
Yeah, so we have a baseline, but the fascinating thing about this space is that the more we talk to our partners and protocols, they all come up with scenarios that we hadn't thought of. Like, you think you're very smart, and we have worked in this space enough that we have very good understanding. And then it's one of those things that the more I know, the less I know type of thing. The most I learn, the less I know. So at the beginning, Firelight is going to offer cover for a smart contract risk exploit, economic risks, think about bad debt in lending protocols and things like that, Oracle risk and bridge risk. And there are other things that we're working on. But for starters, a platform like Centaura, we're going to cover all our positions, which is very sizable. So it's in billions and billions of assets deploying DeFi. So we're buyers of this cover for mid-single digit billions. So it's so we're client number one of our own solution.
Look, I think that's really important. You know, is the best I think solutions obviously come from actually experiencing these problems ourselves, but quite quite like the anecdote of, especially in crypto space, you know, the more you know, the less you know. And apologies for my baby puppy in the background there. Look, Jesus, in your article on CoinDesk, we saw you've historically written about insurance being the missing primitive, specifically for institutional adoption of DeFi. Can you elaborate on that? And what are the DeFi primitives that could most benefit from this increased institutional adoption?
I don't think anybody read that other than Hugo, that article. So at least there are two people. Yeah, look, as I said before, insurance is a price of risk. in market. That's a way to describe it. As I said, it converts esoterical risk that people don't understand to something that they can quantify, like collateral risk. So the history of insurance goes back to the 11th, 1200s, but it really materializes with things like the Lloyd's of London at a scale. There is in that article, you go back to very famous mathematicians like Blaise Pascal, Pierre de Fermat, the Bernoulli family with the famous law of large numbers, that they all created sort of the foundation of what it takes to price risk. So financial insurance is a thing, right? Like we all know out of the money call options and things like that. In DeFi, the thing about DeFi is that risk is very, very different. Like a lot of this stuff of traditional actuarial models, they just don't work. Because think about it, the law of large, so typically if you insure homes, maybe a home caught fire on something, but not the entire country, right? So there is a law of large numbers multiple that in which financially the insurance cover makes sense. In something like DeFi, if a protocol gets exploited, it's a very binary outcome. So you lose a lot, like what happened with Balancer, unfortunately, this week. So you need to model and quantify risk and scale in a different way. Also, there are no intermediaries here, so all that risk is at the protocol, right? The protocols absorb all the risk, and it's programmable, which means people come and party with it and try to hack it all the time. So you need to have the models for doing this are a lot of machine learning and statistics, and less about market understanding and things like that. But it's a very different approach to risk pricing and cover. And I'm sure, obviously, we have taken a very serious shot at this, but it's been less than a year. So I'm sure that we're getting a ton of things wrong for improvement. Thankfully, we have had a lot of good partners advising along the way.
Look, absolutely, and yeah, I cannot wait to see how this evolves further. And I do completely agree. This is a required, acquired evolution of the space. Hugo, I'll throw the mic over to you if you're okay to take it. And I guess my big question from an L1 perspective is: do you think an insurance primitive will foster growth in the Flare ecosystem specifically?
Well, I mean, for starters, having this insurance protocol on Flare that will insure protocols across the space, and then emitting a tokenized sort of representation of that coverage is of massive benefit to the Flare ecosystem itself, because we then become effectively this home for this protocol and the representation of the value it's covering, which is absolutely huge for Flare. And then if you take it to maybe the second degree, I think extending that cover into Flare's protocols just makes Flare's protocols even more palatable. So yeah, I think all in all, it's very good for the ecosystem.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and really do appreciate yourself, Steve and Jesus, for your time today and diving into exactly how this is.
I'll be interested to hear Jack's perspective as a protocol builder of how he thinks about cover and insurance and those things.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys still have me? Yeah, there we go. There's the purple bar I was looking for. Yeah, let's get the mic over to Steve next. And Steve, over to you.
Yes, the perspective of a DEX or DeFi protocol and having insurance offerings, I think it's great and beautiful, because we have this request all the time where large LPs ask if there's a possibility to insure maybe positions, or generally even the retails asking about how it's about the insurance, how is the security. Yeah, security is audit, but in the end, we know that not audits can 100% protect the protocol about possible risks, especially also for LPs. The impermanent loss risks are there. depegging risk of stable coins, and to have an option to provide the customers also to insure their positions, or generally in DeFi, make insurance for them, or embed this and say, okay, you can insure your 100K LP position for, let's say, 2% of the yield. Something like this, I think, will have a lot of participants which will use this. And it's beneficial for both sides, giving up some of your yields against security. Hopefully the security will never be used because there will nothing happen. But in the end, when something happened, everybody will be happy to have insurance for this. It's like Jesus say, a house insurance for fire. How often your house is burning? Not that much, I think, but if it happens, it's cool to have insurance protecting your house or your values.
Look, absolutely, and look, it's not a new product, right? It's just a completely new environment and a new technology that it's being applied to. But I think everybody understands, conceptually how important this all is. And yeah, look, the same way we've just explained all the way back from the London days, how far these implications have gone and evolved. It's always going to be a thing that is required for that evolution and for the scalability, I think, of any market. Look, Flare recently added support for bridging XRP to Flare using its facets bridge. Caps got filled super quickly, and tens of millions of XRP flowed straight into the ecosystem in the first weeks. Hugo, how much FXRP has been minted so far, and where has it been put to use across Flare's DeFi ecosystem so far?
Yeah, so about 54 million units of XRP, just slightly above that, have been minted onto Flare. The very gratifying thing for me is that makes Flare by far and away the single largest sort of XRP product in the market. There are a few other products, and Flare is the most sizable of them all. So, as a founder, as someone that wants to see the success of Flare, and having had invested really a very sizable amount of my time into building out Flare and FXRP, that is an extremely gratifying thing to see. So I'm very thankful to the community for that vote of confidence. I think it's important to note that at this point, we think that the majority of the funds are effectively community funds. We're working with Centaura on onboarding sort of institutional entities, and I think that will come as Firelight goes live. But at this moment, it's pretty much all community, which is incredible because it's such a large amount of value. And then, where's it been put to use? Well, there's a few options at the moment, with many more coming. So, what's absolutely startling, and I'm not sure I could have predicted this, is about 67.7% of it is locked as TVL in Flare's DeFi protocols. So across the DEXs like SparkDEX, Enosis, BlazeSwap, and Kinetic, the lending protocol, and possibly, although I'm not certain I have seen the statistics, possibly SparkDEX's new Perps DEX. Steve can tell me about that. FXRP is principal asset in SparkDEX's Perp DEX, meaning you can essentially take a Perps position with FXRP as collateral, which I think is quite exciting. So yeah, that's where we've gotten to. There's a long way to go. There's obviously Firelight to launch, but also a CDP protocol built by Gnosis, which is launching. So this allows you to collateralize your XRP and turn it into a stablecoin, effectively borrowing stablecoins against your XRP. You could also do that in Kinetic to borrow a different type of stablecoin. So I think it's just very, very early days for the ecosystem, but it's going very well at the moment. And the reason why I say that 67.7% of the XRP that has been moved to Flare being put in DeFi is an interesting statistic is that when I started Flare, absolutely, like almost all of the venture capitalists I went to see to get funding for Flare told me the XRP community will never use DeFi. Well, either we've done something right and we've educated them, or they were wrong, or both. So I'm just very happy to see that result.
No, Hugo, just a massive congratulations. I think all the speakers will share that sentiment, but yeah, it's a story you do tend to hear quite frequently, actually, in this space. You know, just not being able to wrap your mind around where this space will evolve, and someone like yourself and the builders here up on stage who just completely see a direction that goes against the grain, or goes against at least the traditional belief of how these projects will work. So no, look, great thing to hear, and I think it will give a faith to you know, a lot of builders right now, if they're in the space, you know, founders, entrepreneurs, anyone who is being told right now, oh, that definitely won't come to pass, or you know, you can't possibly be right about this, to to know that even the experts or even the investors can often get these things wrong. What do we see is the impact has been on Flare's TVL since FXRP has been minted?
Well, you know, it obviously is variable depending on the price of XRP, and you know, the price of all our assets across the whole space has not been particularly edifying the last couple of weeks. But we've got about 117 million and about 60% into TVL, so you know, about 60%. Sorry, about 70% of that 100 million into TVL. So about 70 million increase in TVL, which is fantastic from our perspective. Of course, we probably had drops off of TVL elsewhere, as other, you know, as values of other tokens have fallen, and possibly people withdrawing stables because of you know, instability in the wider markets.
Amazing stuff. And I guess the final one for you, Hugo, and then we'll keep circulating these questions. But how do you feel? How has XRP users reacted to this change? You know, how do you feel their initial reaction has been?
Difficult to gauge, I guess, because I speak to a lot of people that are very interested in Flare, and they've been, of course, incredibly positive. Less certain on the wider set of XRP users, but I've not seen really any negativity, which is lovely. And I just hope that we can, you know, work with the community to educate them, to make life easier for them to onboard to their XRP to Flare. One of the things we are doing to that end is working with Zaman, which is a very, very big wallet in the XRP ecosystem, to really make the experience of moving your XRP and deploying your XRP on Flare completely seamless. And in fact, I think it's an interesting way that Flare will, in some ways, benefit the XRP ledger, because that user will effectively control their Flare account directly from the XRP ledger. That means for every transaction they make on Flare, there will be a corresponding transaction on the XRP ledger, and that obviously increases activity and, you know, usage metrics of the XRP ledger. So I think it makes Flare effectively a seamless and high quality L1 for EVM L1 for XRP, which is a great position to be in.
Absolutely. And Steve, you were referenced earlier when we were talking about Spark Dex. I'd love to throw this question over to you next. Have you seen an increase in usage since the launch of FXRP? And what are some of the newer projects in the Flare ecosystem?
Yes, as Hugo mentioned, I think we have around 2 million FXRP in the pools of us. So around $1 million worth of TVL is in the perpetual liquidity pool, and around 1 million, I think, is in the V3 pools in 3 different pairs. We see high volumes since the launch of FXRP. I don't know it's correlated to the market conditions and generally because much more volume is happening due to the fallouts of the market. But I can say as a protocol income, we see more FXRP as fees collected. So that means generally FXRP is more work. Secondly, yes, as Hugo mentioned, we have now perpetuals enabled with FXRP as collateral, and it's widely used. So people can gain more FXRP with gambling, or let's say perpetual trading. so they can bet on other pairs like longing BTC with FXRPs. They will earn FXRP. What else I can say about the usage or how Hugo mentioned? We try to improve the onboarding of XRP members to Flare. We have built FSwaps, which is embedded to SparkDex, where the first lot is sponsored by Flare. So Flare sponsoring the first lot, the first mint fees, and also a faucet for Flare token itself when you don't have any Flare on your EVM wallet. So we try also our best to onboard FXRP easily to Flare and help the Flare the XRP community to activate the assets. So, but yeah, generally, I would say we have much more activity with FXRP now on the chain. So, and I think when we can enhance the pairs with FXRP pairing with Ethereum and other stables, I think there will be much more activity and also use case for FXRP. On top of this, we're actually building a cross-chain bridge. I think we will enable this next week, where you simply can buy XRP or FXRP from any chain you want. It can be Arbitrum, Hyper EVM, or you can simply use your XRP and buy, let's say, Ethereum on Arbitrum, which will utilize F assets in between, mint FXRP, sell them to USDT, and bridge over to Arbitrum. So we try, even it's only middleman. Flare is a middleman in this, but the utilization of XRP will increase. And as Hugo mentioned, we will be like the main layer 1 or EVM side of XRP. That's, I think, more use case like CDP and all this is building and all this stuff coming now together and Firelight launching. I think actually we are simply still in a beta of FXRP for the users. I even think that a lot of large entities still waiting is it stable FXRP or not FX system. And I think soon we will have much more inflows of XRP, and with all the DeFi blocks coming together, the CDPs and Firelight and the staking protocol, I think we will have much more growth, not only on SparkTech, also on the total ecosystem of Flare.
Look, great perspectives, and I sort of foresaw my follow-up question there, which is, how do you foresee the growth within the project? So, Hugo, maybe bring this over to you, and then back over to Steve. What's next for F assets, or FA assets?
Yeah, sure. So what's next for FXRP? Well, we're currently at 70 million cap, with 54 million of it done. We'll be looking to raise that cap once we get to 70 million, and we'll be looking, I don't want to discuss our internal machinations too much, but we will be looking to remove that cap entirely relatively soon. Part of our security protocol is the necessity to have a cap. So, we're somewhat restricting growth to do it in a more disciplined and hopefully safer manner at the moment. But I think, as we work through that, as more protocols launch, as there's more liquidity in SparkDex and more lending happening in Kinetic, all against FXRP, I think it becomes safer and safer to grow the ecosystem. So I just think it's really a function of time and of patiently and diligently working through the process to really grow the ecosystem safely. That's our critical take. We haven't discussed much of like how Flare is unique on this call. One of the major things that happened this week was a screw up with an oracle. There's a reason why we built a totally decentralized oracle system, and we're bringing the same kind of level of discipline to our growth of the FXRP system as we have tried to do elsewhere in the foundation of Flare. And that's critical for me. It's why we've chosen partners like Centaura, who take risk management incredibly seriously. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're building a financial system that we want to last for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Look, great perspectives there. And yeah, I think with recent events, just again highlights how building for the long term really can, come in clutch during these moments. Hugo, over to you. Which assets are coming to Flare? Are we purely focused on XRP for the foreseeable future?
So we are.
Yeah, Hugo, what assets are coming to Flare?
We are focused on XRP for the foreseeable future. It would be crazy for us to throw up a whole bunch of new assets and then have to simultaneously build an ecosystem around them. That said, everyone. And creating a hub for them as incredibly valuable. And then, of course, there's one particular stablecoin that we would be very interested in having on Flare.
I'll leave that to the audience's imagination. And look, Hugo, thank you again so much for your time today. Steve, also, thank you for your time on behalf of SparkDex and Flare. And of course, Jesus and Firelight for putting the show together on behalf of Centaur, because this has been an incredible listen, and massive shout out to the audience who have tuned in for that. Jesus, before we do close out the show, any final thoughts from yourself, any updates, milestones, anything you'd like to share on behalf of Firelight or Centaur today?
I was really hoping that you wouldn't ask. Yeah, so we are launching Firelight this month. For sure. So probably that's I can probably guarantee that. So the pre-deposit bots will be live this month. I've been advised by our marketing team that I can say as much.
Well, that's when you know it's certain, right? When the marketing team give you the green light. I have been cursed multiple times on shows when I bring too much alpha out of a founder, and the marketing team haven't given us that news or the green light for those updates. So I hope the audience love that final update, that final piece of alpha to end out the show. And again, a massive shout out to everybody who tuned in, and of course to Jesus, Hugo, and Steve for their time today. Gentlemen, we're basically at time. Are there any closing thoughts across Hugo or Steve? Anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we do close out?
Yeah, I think just watch this space, really.
Love it. That's a great soundbite to end, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So we'll catch you on the next one.
Okay, guys, there we have it. I thought it was a pretty good listen. We did get that news at the end, which was that, well, Jesus basically confirming something that people in the know already knew. So, if you keep an eye on their accounts here, you can see, I'm not sure where that timeline went, actually. Give me a second. Okay, let's go here. Let's go to media. And this is their timeline. It said here, November, Firelight Phase 1 launch. Yeah, that's a good reason to join the subscriber Flare community family and basically get up to date with all of the news that's happening. We didn't need confirmation there. We knew already that it's coming in November. And again, this is my little speculation here that it is going to be launching somewhere around or after this date. This is just for those who are joining a little bit later. Firelight are hosting, ImmuneFi are hosting an audit competition for Firelight that ends in 10 days' time. It would be silly to launch before then, but I think, they'll get the results back from this competition. If there's no major hiccups or any vulnerabilities, then I'm pretty sure they're confident to push the button, I think we're looking at a launch at the back end of November. Who's talking about, do you think Ripple will issue RLUSD directly on Flare or bridge it across from Ethereum? I think they will launch natively. We did hear Hugo talking about a stablecoin that they really want. We know that Hugo just went to the Swell conference as well. That just ended a couple of days ago. And I imagine he's been talking to people behind the scenes, trying to get the traction, sorry. And I don't think there's a better way to get traction than if we go to this website here, by showcasing them this kind of chart, right? This is the total value locked on the Flare network, specifically from F assets, and even more specifically, FXRP. And having charts like this and these metrics are basically leverage to, or bargaining power to say, look, Ripple, you may want to consider launching RLUSD natively because we've got a budding ecosystem, and this has just started really. You look at the times here, this was the back end of September. So it's not been very long since this has launched, and you can already see the huge growth that we've witnessed, people wanting to use XRP on the Flare network. And I'm pretty sure with XRP being so dominant on Flare, I think a lot of people would like that reassurance of using a stable coin backed by Ripple opposed to, say, Tether. But that's just my 2 cents. But yeah, that was the stream. I do really appreciate everyone tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, but I think it's time to sign out. We're just going to have to wait and see when this comes to fruition, the timeline here. As I said, I think it's going to be coming back end of November, which isn't long. A lot of people have been waiting for this, but all good things come to those who wait. So stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with everything happening. Thank you